So
Can I sit back? Is it carrying me enough? Or
yeah, I think so.
All right,
Awesome. So we're live. Zack Shornick
Yeah.
from Gimme.
Yeah, how's it going?
Awesome. Great, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
Just jumped right into it. There's no break.
I mean, would you like one?
No, I'm just.
Okay.
It's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Zack Shornick. So basically, well, I saw your profile pretty early into I hadn't been on social media for a while, so I made a podcast, Instagram, and I don't know, you were just one of the first recommendations, and then
cool.
Some AceNet people for sure gave you some shout outs, so then that was kind of how I found out about you, but. Basically, Gimme. If you just want to start there, you could start wherever you want. Actually, fuck what I'm on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, how far back do we want to go?
As far as you want.
So I've got I don't know, in my mind, a fairly decent background in food. I lived in Chicago for about 15 years. I was working in restaurants and doing some other things. I was an actor for a long time, serial entrepreneur. So when the pandemic hit, my wife and I moved to upstate New York. I was actually opening restaurants for different owners as executive chef for a couple years, and we weren't that happy. My wife grew up not far from here in Lithopolis, Canal Winchester area, and so we came down here looking for what we were missing. And before we moved here in upstate New York, after I opened all those restaurants for people, I started a little micro bakery called Gimme, doing wholesale, a lot of cookies and stuff, selling those at some markets, and doing some catering.
This is in New York, you're saying?
This was in the Catskills, upstate New York, and I wanted to continue that, but I didn't want to jump right into it. I didn't want to compete with people that were already here. It was very important to me to be part of the community, not just show up to the community. So we showed up, and I saw there was Mad Batter already doing some stuff.
Mad Batter's a cookie company.
Mad Batter, fantastic cookies. And there were a few other cottage bakers at the farmers market. I don't know if Keely at Flower and Thyme had started selling yet, but I've been aware of her. She's doing the cakes.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to just show up as an outsider and start competing. So so I took a job in town in a restaurant and slowly started to see what I thought I could bring to the table while also supporting everyone else here.
Yeah. So, you mentioned that your wife is from Canal Winchester, which is, up 33.
Mm-hmm.
But, what did you know of Athens before? Did she have any type of connection or relate? What brought you to Athens versus, Canal? Because that's kind of, separate areas,
Yeah. Well, so, so I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up in Connecticut. Okay. So the Catskill region, the Berkshires, those sort of rural areas of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. To me, I remember nice communities, some farmlands, some small towns because there's a lot of tourism, ski towns, and stuff like that. But and we knew there's some colleges there, CIA is there, Culinary Institute's there, and bunch of other schools outside Poughkeepsie or in Poughkeepsie sort of area. We came here because we wanted to be closer to her family, and we didn't necessarily want to live exactly where they are.
Yeah.
Because we moved up there to be with those communities and with the farmers and stuff like that, and we found that this area being a college town and having that, they when we were researching, it was one of the highest rated or number one farmers market in the state. That was just 2 years ago. And I learned that there was a James Beard nomination in town at Little Fish.
James Beard, is that an award or something?
That is a very large food award. And there is I'm trying to think if we are in the Midwest region.
Yeah, I think Ohio's Midwest, for sure.
But it depends on however they break it up.
I see. Yeah.
But Becky, who is the previous chef of Little Fish and also the owner of Pork and Pickles, had that award with her executive Sue, who's now executive chef of Little Fish, Jen Sartwell, fantastic chef, who I love working with. And so we saw okay, my wife is farming and wants to be in the farm community. I'm cooking. I want to be in the food community. And we both want to be outside. And so that's had that sense of community that we felt like the Catskills didn't really have during the pandemic, because it had just changed since I was a kid. So we gave it a shot. We came here to visit like 2 times. And
when is this? Because you just said you were doing research 2 years ago.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we moved in June 2 years ago, so just about 2 years ago.
Wow, how fun.
So this was like Christmas right before that.
Okay.
And there were no college kids around.
Yeah. Because everything's remote and shit.
A bunch, a bunch of the. Well, it was only 2 years ago, so or 2.5 years ago.
Oh wait, so the pandemic left it out. Oh, yeah. But you mean you came in the summer, so the students.
We came in the winter, in Christmas. So there were no students around. It was Christmas break, or holiday break, and few restaurants were open, few things were open, but everyone we talked to really kind of convinced us it was the right choice for us. So we're very happy.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned Becky. Like, is that Chef Becky something on Instagram? Maybe I'll follow her.
Well, she's actually moved. She now lives in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, okay.
She does visit. She still has a house here. Her family's here.
Oh, cool.
She's a fantastic chef, and she, her mom just did like a plant sale at our Mother's Day brunch at Little Fish.
Oh, cool.
But Jen Sartwell is the current executive chef here in Athens at Little Fish. And they worked together for a long, long time, both under Pork and Pickles and at Little Fish. And I've had the privilege to work for both of them and work under Jen quite a bit for the last 2 years. Yeah. And it's fantastic. It's a great place. So they, part of the reason that I got excited about coming here and wanting to invest in the community before I just like started a business was because I saw what Little Fish was doing is that, and full disclosure, I'm the taproom manager there, so I don't want to just be like, hey, I love this place.
You could be tied in and still promote.
But like all the food and beer, anything that can be local is. So whether that's just like ingredients from Ohio for like malts and hops, if that's hyper local Athens County farms that we're getting both like fruit. We even get stuff from the OU farm.
Student farm.
Yeah. So, but like farmers like Earl Valley, Pastor Fowler, Attican, Blaney. I'm going to forget people. It's going to be awful. But,
don't be offended.
But like, I was able to see like, okay, there's a desire for good food. A desire to maintain this local economy,
support local,
and invest in it and give back to it, and there's an excitement from not just the people in the community, but we're on the 33 corridor. People are traveling through to the Hocking Hills and back home, and college visits and stuff like that. So there's definitely like an excitement about it, and that's kind of where I was coming from. Is that's what I want to do. That's who I want to serve, and so the fact that they were doing it and the fact that they supported that I wanted to do it sort of in my own way outside of there was really great, helping make those connections.
Yeah, that's cool. So you said that you started working for a restaurant when you got here? Is that Little Fish? Yeah, okay, cool. And you're still there?
Yeah, I started in the kitchen, was cooking, and then lead line cook, and now I'm the taproom manager.
Yeah, cool. Nice. And so then the Gimme thing is like you have like ordering windows open, right?
Yeah, so Gimme, I kept the name. That was the micro bakery in the Catskills, and I just liked the name. It just sort of came up organically when I was brainstorming those with my wife. We were driving somewhere, and it was just like, that's a good name. That's what I want. I want people to feel like excited and cravings, but I don't want it to just be junk food. I want it to be like, something like gimme that. So I kept the name, and I started last summer with some farm dinners with Attican Farms.
Which you're about to start back up.
Yeah, we just released tickets for the June, and then we open ticket windows about a month in advance. Yeah. So we'll do one in July. Those tickets will go on sale in a couple weeks, and then we're hoping to do one in August and September as well. Nice. So we did those, and they sold out really fast, and people were really excited about it. It allowed me to sort of gauge the interest in the food I want to cook. It also allowed me to, develop those partnerships and those relationships with all these farmers that I get to call friends. and showcase their stuff while also like reinvesting into the work that they're doing. You know, I could go buy ingredients from wherever, and those ingredients are coming from wherever. But there are people growing stuff here. I should be able to just use it and share it.
Yeah, that's wicked, because that's the point of the farm dinners, right? Is that you're using the ingredients from the farm.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is pretty wicked.
Yeah, and it's like we don't release a menu for it because I don't know what they're going to have that week.
Yeah, that's got to be exciting.
You
Like
know?
as a chef,
It's very exciting, and that's kind of the way that I, have always sort of cooked, is this idea of like the chopped TV shows. Like, well, what do I have?
What do you got?
And then I guess I get a list from Kara, the farmer of Vatican, who owns it and is
Where's it at geographically?
Albany.
Albany, cool.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of farms out in Albany.
Yeah, there's some great land down there. Some nice rolling sort of Appalachian hills. Yeah. But she'll give me like a plant list, a crop list of what she's planting, and a kind of estimated harvest time when it'll be ready. So I kind of have like a little bit of an idea of what she'll have, like what, grows around here.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year there was a drought. Right now there's a ton of rain, so that's going to change probably.
Yeah, it was also throughout the season, right? So like you're using different ingredients throughout the year based on like what's ready when.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So like you could go all summer and eat something different every time.
Oh yeah, it's never the same menu.
That's awesome.
And that's the same with Mike. So like doing that, so excited about it. Because I don't release a menu, when you buy tickets, it's like, tell me what dietary restrictions you have, and I cook around it. So that everyone has like an exciting dinner. We try to keep the costs down because it's by being BYOB.
Nice.
So we're not doing any pairings directly, but if you brought something, you can bring whatever you want as long as you get home safe.
Cool.
But yeah, so I prepare all of that at AceNet.
In the kitchen space.
Yeah. So I'm using commercial kitchen. I rent space at AceNet. That was another reason why we moved here, is I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to cook?
How'd you find out about AceNet? Like, cause you like as outside kind of as you could be.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of background in kitchens, and so I knew about commissary kitchen spaces. So I was just researching what commissary space. I thought I was going to have to like drive to Columbus or Lancaster and come back. And I just saw like, oh, AceNet exists, and there's this kitchen, and not only is there this kitchen, but they're so invested in the community and small businesses. They're tied in with CFI and Rural Action, who are doing incredible work.
Yeah.
Especially now, they all have their work cut out for them because of cuts to
funding,
grants and USDA stuff. My wife, got a job for the local farmers market for the last 2 years,
cool.
And
that is year round. Like it goes inside in the community center during the winter, and then it's outside in the community center parking lot.
Year-round market.
Yeah.
So it's just it just everything that I was kind of looking for here really has sort of already fallen into place, which is nice.
So cool, yeah.
And I'm just sort of trying to grow my own stuff organically and word of mouth, and I'm lucky to have a lot of really enthusiastic guests and customers that I'm so incredibly grateful for.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Wow. So then AceNet, like, do you rent that space out? Like, I mean, everything is there? Like, you literally you just bring in your ingredients and then?
I bring in a lot of equipment.
Okay.
So I have like tote bins filled with equipment.
Oh, tote bins.
Tote bins, yeah. Sorry, I mumble. My wife yells at me about it. Tote bins full of like small wares equipments, like pots and pans, and all my knife kit. And, the AceNet kitchen in Athens has like a row of ovens, a huge range, a tilt skillet, a blast chiller, a walk-in freezer, and a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's always sort of something you could do there. And they're also growing, and there's a lot of small businesses developing.
Yeah. Does that kitchen ever get filled up? Like, is it hard to get time there?
It's not necessarily hard to get time there, but it's definitely like a dance when there's a lot of people in there on the same day getting ready for the weekend or something. So
so more than one person can be in there at a time?
Yeah.
I see.
But it depends on what they're doing and what they reserve.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of actually work now out of the Nelsonville location of AceNet.
I've been hearing about that. I didn't even realize there was one there.
Yeah, so they've got this giant warehouse, which has a few different businesses, offices in there, and then a large company does a lot of like co-packing and sauces in there. And then in sort of the middle of the warehouse, they have more like walk-in refrigeration and 2 sort of prep rooms.
Yeah, who's in charge of that Nelsonville location?
Josh of Appalachian Girls is the...
Crozier.
Yeah.
He was just on the pod last week?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And then talked about Nelsonville.
Yeah, so you've had Ronnie.
Yeah.
Ronnie's the kitchen manager now in Athens.
Givens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then Matt of App Girls
Osler.
Yeah, is like I don't know what his exact title is.
Yeah, okay.
But it's sort of like facilities manager type thing.
Okay.
So he and then Josh of App Girls is the same as Matt over there.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
That's how it works out. But
so if you need something, hit up in Nelsonville, hit up Matt and Josh.
Yeah, exactly.
From App Canvas.
And they're fantastic guys, and Ronnie's got a great guy, and so like I can reach out to any of them and
That's
they'll
awesome.
help. But the Nelsonville location has like a meat processing room and a veggie processing room. I know for the meat processing room, it's it allows farmers to like co-pack or sausage makers to co-pack in a safe environment that is inspected and approved.
Who's responsible for cleaning that? If you rent it out, like just say like a meat processor did, like it's the meat processor's responsibility for making sure everything's clean.
Oh yeah.
And just like somebody expect that? Is it just like a respect thing where it's like we all understand we've got to like we're all adults here, but like what's the oversight of that? Like if somebody did just walk out leaving it wrecked, it's like have a conversation with them next time. Like how do you manage all of that?
I mean, I think that's up to Josh, Ronnie, and Matt. Really, you know that they're managing those spaces.
What have your interactions been like? So, like, actually using AceNet, like...
Oh, incredible.
Good experiences. Other than, like, the facilities, have they helped you anything with, like, the business side? Or have you figured that out after having run a couple small businesses?
Yeah, I mean, well, before Ronnie was the kitchen manager, Adam was before his promotion. I know
Cody.
Adam on here before, too. And so before we even moved here, again, I reached out and was like, tell me more about what y'all are doing.
Nice.
And I think the first time I sat down with Adam Cody, I was like, here's 4 businesses that I want to do. And he was like, okay, well, let's start with one. And I kept emailing him with like pivots and like, okay, well, what if, I don't want to compete with this person. What if I do this? Or, okay, I'm going to need licensing for this. What if I do that? So they've been super helpful helping me navigate, who I need to talk to, when, how, what I need to have prepared. I did have some experience. I also met with, I don't know if he's still there, and I can't remember his name, but there's like a business person there too who's like, okay, if you're going to file your LLC, like here's how you do it. If you want to register a trademark,
what they call technical assistance, I believe. Yeah.
So yeah, anything you would need, they would help you with. If you have a massive delivery, if you have an account with San Filippo, which is a produce company, you can have it delivered to the warehouse, and Ronnie will sign for it for you and get it in the fridge, so that if you can't be there, if you have your other day job or whatever, you can come back to it and it's been safely refrigerated. And
That's something I don't think I ever put together that most of these people might have. Like even the podcast earlier today, like a ceramics girl, but she is also a licensed massage therapist and also kind of works at Casa. And then like you come in here with the Gimme, but you're also like a little fish. Like that's like I never considered that, but even this podcast, like I have a job and so it kind of makes sense. But do most of the people then that you meet there, do they also have like other side, or not even side gigs, but they're juggling more than one thing?
I mean, and it's exciting to see because, for one, it's, it used to be called like the side hustle, right?
And that's kind of why I was trying to get away from that.
Right. And it's not, because the side hustle isn't what you're trying to put on the side. It's you're trying to make your main. So it's really like all these people invested want to do something. They see something that they can do for the community and they want to do more. So my friend Krista, who runs Happy Snacking, is also the kitchen manager at Little Fish, and does some really beautiful
like charcuterie boards and stuff.
Yeah. And so she's there constantly at AceNet, early mornings after service at Little Fish, late nights doing these boards for locals for snacks, as well as pre-orders for some cabins in the Hocking Hills.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Chef Kate Mosier runs Willow. Why can't I think of the name? Oh, shoot. I'm going to feel real bad. Something Willow Catering. And she's a fantastic chef and a great person and so nice. And she also teaches culinary at the Tri-County Career Center in
how
Nelsonville.
cool.
And then I think you've talked to Butcher's Bites, Tara.
So no, I'm trying to get him on the pod for sure.
Fantastic
but know the
people,
family, yeah,
super nice people,
yeah.
And they're bodybuilders and chiropractors and
massage
therapists and run this company.
Yeah.
So I think there's very few people that are in that space that aren't also doing something else and something else that still serves the community.
Yeah.
The only people that I think aren't maybe, Crumbs is based out of AceNet, but Crumbs is Crumbs.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm sure a lot of those people who work there are also working other jobs too. I remember Adam Cody I listened to that podcast with you, and he was talking about Matt Rohal, who's like a fantastic...
the assassin guy?
Yeah, a knife for hire.
Nice.
Like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Wow.
But yeah, he's worked for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great to see. It's the same as like going to the farmer's market. You go and you see... I'll see like guests that we've had at Little Fish who are now also coming to my farm dinners or ordering my food, who are also just like friends with the farmers. So you just, there's this really nice sense of community in all of these spaces, which is just, really powerful and really exciting.
Multi-layered. Yeah. Another thing that we just talked about this morning. I just talked about this morning.
Okay,
that's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's really important to me, that sense of community, not just because of like, I feel like it's one of those words that's, you see natural ingredients, sense of community, but
it's subtler than words, you know what I mean?
I guess. I don't know. It just, I'm thinking a lot lately about like all this, we were talking about like the sort of funding cuts in the USDA and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, the SEO food banks are losing money to feed people who are in need or need more than they can. But that money also went to those farmers here in this community that was sustaining their business. And there's not a lot of young farmers anymore. So then like you have these institutions here in town like Casa and Village Bakery that have been around for a long time and are doing just that. They're buying as much local as possible. They're hiring local, obviously, but it's so convenient to buy from somewhere. And we are sort of trained in our society now to like get what we want when we want it. So it was really refreshing when I started at Little Fish. Like, we don't have fresh tomatoes on the menu until it's tomato season. And that's like for burgers too. Like we just don't have them because we're not meant to have them yet, and we can get them really good when they're ready here. So all
like
of that,
the lack, right? The not having them for a couple months makes it exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It like makes it that much better. Like,
of course.
I crave that first just like tomato mayo sandwich of the season, and I know I'll get them when it's there. And I feel like that is so much better, both like from a flavor profile as well as from a local economy profile, than just having tomato on a burger year round.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I started talking about that, but it's just exciting.
Yeah,
it's very nice to like feel like people are investing in each other. And I didn't always get that where I lived, so it's really nice.
Yeah. That's cool. You said a couple times that you were interested in not competing directly with somebody. Like, why would that be important to you? Like, in an abundance mindset, right? It's like, there's room for everybody.
Sure, yeah.
So, like, how did you decide, like, this is not compete? Like, even what you landed on, how did you decide that that's not competing with somebody? Or, like, whatever that means for you. I guess I don't even really understand.
Yeah, I mean, part of it was feeling like I was coming in as an outsider.
Yeah.
Someone who isn't from or has ever lived really in Ohio. And so it felt a little strange to me to come here with an idea and try and execute it before I really understood if that idea was needed here, or if I needed to, how do I want to put this? Before the idea was needed here, but also before people met me. You know, I didn't want to be an outsider who was just like, even if I wasn't trying to like take advantage of something, I didn't want to make it seem like I was.
Yeah. Or like you're just not like really in the community. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
You're
mean-
just trying to like use it for an end means versus like.
Right. You know, like I could come in here and be like, oh, it's a college town and there's not a lot of restaurants open on these days, or, you know, not a lot of places with parking that can do this, or, you know, like maybe whatever. And I could just like spend a lot of money and try to invest. But to me, it was more important to get to know the people I was serving and what they actually wanted and needed and how to get it to them. You know, I could have just, you know, before I knew who the farmers were and what they were growing, I could have just bought from a major corporation that orders from
Gordon Food Services.
right,
Yeah.
and had it shipped in. Like there are ways to do it, but I didn't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
Like you know, like I said, I've got these really sort of loyal, passionate sort of customers already. That I'm getting to see every month at my pickups, and like the day that my tickets go on sale for something, they buy them.
That is cool. So like, how many people are doing like a farm dinner? Like, how big is that?
I mean, the seats for our farm dinners are only like 20. It's very
Still a lot
very
of people.
intimate.
Yeah.
You know, Blaney Family Farms does their pizza nights, which is like so fun to go to because they're such a generous, like Adam and Tabby and their family are so generous and so sweet.
It's awesome.
They've got a really nice, beautiful property. Like we were there a few weeks ago, and you know, they were like, "Here's these new kittens we have. Do you want to pick them up and play with them?" And let's, you know.
Also an Albany farm, right?
Also in Albany, yeah, not too far. And then Moso Farms, so there's another chef, Zach Morgan, who also is associated with Little Fish. He is the executive chef at the Dayton location now.
There's a Dayton Little Fish?
Yeah, we've been there about 2 or 3 years
no
now.
Way.
Yeah, so it'll be 10 years this July for Athens, and I think 3 years for Dayton.
I grew up like 2 minutes down the road from where Little Fish is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like that over here.
Yeah.
You can hear all the spring peepers at night.
Yeah, and I like that. Like since Little Fish went in, you know, like you see the people walking on the like little strip there where the sidewalk ends on 682, just like or like Dad's Weekend, you see like a dad with their college son like on a bike coming back, and you just kind of know like they came from Little Fish. Like I love all that. And I'm pretty sure. Like, did they buy like that property right in front of Little Fish? I swear I saw them having like a dinner right there, and I was like, "That's wicked."
So that's an Airbnb. There's like a ton of bedrooms in there now.
Yeah.
So we've used it for weddings, like you know, you can set up a tent and do weddings or luncheons. There was a graduation luncheon on that property. You know, the liquor license I don't think extends to that property, so there are always
carry out there.
Circumstances.
Can't you just buy from Little Fish and walk it over?
Yeah. It's like how we serve is under whatever
Laws.
Yeah,
you know, laws and stuff.
But it is really cool to like do events there. Because it is a beautiful house and it's a nice setting and it's fun to do that stuff. You know, I when I was in New York, I did some farm to table dinners with another chef who I worked under.
Farm from New York? Oh, you were in upstate.
I was in upstate New York,
yeah,
in the Catskills. So, and I loved that we could showcase those farms, but it didn't feel like it was accessible. You know, it didn't feel like the price point was accessible.
Okay.
It didn't feel like the food it was delicious.
Connecting,
and it was amazing.
you mean?
Yeah, you know. So sorry, just bringing it back to like my farm dinners and stuff like, you know, Zach is doing with his brother and sister-in-law at Moso and Blaney, like it's nice to like be like, this is the food that you're eating in the ground still, like for the next person. And, if you come next month, that's going to be ready and you'll probably be eating that. So that's what's exciting. Like even at Blaney, like the pizzas, he'll do like this really delicious like beet pizza, and you're like, oh, he grew those beets too. Like this family's making this pizza dough, and they built that pizza oven, and they grew those beets.
That's so cool, man. I tried to go, but the weather, they keep canceling for weather, and I think finally one went through, but I didn't know rescheduled. Yeah,
I feel like there's one coming up soon too.
Nice.
Like they're
to look for it
once or twice a month for them too,
Nice.
And they're fun. There's live music.
Cool.
I don't know. I don't remember what your question was.
Not important. No. Great. So, like, did you always know you were gonna do food? Like, were you always in food? How did you start? Because you started the story about food in Chicago, right?
Oh.
And isn't Chicago known for like having like a diverse food? Is it like argued as one of the best? Like,
Chicago's got a great food scene. So I was an actor in Chicago. I went to school for theater and
where at?
DePaul in Chicago.
Cool. Heard of it?
Formerly the Goodman School of Drama. It's a great school. I loved it there. And so when I graduated, I spent a year in Minnesota, came back, was looking for work. And so, just like many actors, I was working in restaurants and coffee shops.
Trying to fucking make it. Like, you pay the bills, fucking make something happen.
Something that was flexible where I could go to my audition, have someone cover my shift, whatever, something like that. And I started to realize that I really didn't like auditioning.
Okay.
And I really liked being in restaurants. So,
nice.
I started as like a barista in coffee shops, and then these coffee shops that I started working in were like also making sandwiches, so I was doing a little cooking. And I did a lot more of that than serving. And then I started working at this fantastic little like casual pie and biscuit shop called Bang Bang in Chicago. They opened a second location sort of near my apartment, and I reached out. I was like, I want to work there. I like your product, whatever. And I was there for about 3 years. Got cross-trained and became kitchen manager and front of house manager there.
Cool.
And I had a really great chef named Emily Stewart, who is now got a well-regarded restaurant in Michigan in Traverse City called Modern Bird. And she just gave me that vote of confidence that was like, you could do great at this if you want to.
Wow.
Like, if you want to be in restaurants, whatever you want to do there, I think you could do it. I was like, wow, thank you. And then I had another chef there after she left to Michigan named James Martin, who also incredible chef, is reopening his restaurant soon in Chicago called Bocadillo Market.
Wow.
And it's like Moorish Spanish food, delicious stuff, incredible stuff. So if you're ever in Traverse City or Chicago, check out the restaurants. And he also like was pretty, supportive of everything I wanted to do. When I was in upstate New York and I was having problems like trying to figure out my own menus or my confidence, I called him and he talked me down.
That's awesome.
So after that, they had both left, and I was feeling kind of, plateauing. I felt like I wasn't continuing to learn. It's always important to me that I am constantly learning. I want to try new cuisines. I want to try new techniques. I want to learn more about the food that I'm getting and all that stuff. So I ended up applying for a position in a Michelin star restaurant that closed during the pandemic called Band of Bohemia. It's a brewery. They offered me a job on the spot after my sort of work interview, and I took it.
Nice.
It was great. I was like, wow, I can. If they think I can do this, then I guess I can do this. And so I ended up when I left there during the pandemic, we closed. I was their lead grill cook. So working full time on the grill every night. So from there, long story short, after going to New York, it sort of developed into I want to be in food, because all these other people along the way gave me that vote of confidence. And I realized that I always liked to eat. And I didn't cook a lot as a kid.
Well,
I made egg salad. I think that was it.
Yeah.
But my parents were always enthusiastic about food. My family's enthusiastic about food.
Nice.
I come from a family where we'll be eating breakfast and talking about where are we getting lunch, eating lunch, where are we getting dinner, having dinner, what are we eating when we get home, So, and like my parents always talk about these travels they took for their honeymoon in Italy and stuff like that, and like the food they ate was always very important. Like, food is always just very important. And then the holidays growing up, like I just associate all the good memories of family holidays with the meal that it was about, not necessarily like other things. So I just realized like, oh, I want to continue in food, and it's been great. It's just been great. Yeah.
What has surprised you about Athens? So like you did research about whatever, just like the commissary kitchens and what kind of market and like things, but then kind of like, you know, so you have some sort of expectation. Like once you finally like tapped into the city, into the farmers market, into the ASNet and stuff, like what surprised you? You know.
I don't know. I think honestly what maybe surprised me the most is just how supportive everyone is. You know, something that multiple people told us when we were like visiting the first time and trying to get a sense of what the community was like and what the town was like, and you know what it would be like for us to come here as outsiders, because it's a very, you know, we read like, oh, it's a blue bubble in the state of Ohio, and it's a small college town, like it's pretty tight knit for where it is and what it is, and everyone said like either they left Athens, they grew up in Athens and left and came back, or they came here from somewhere else and just haven't left. You know,
it checks out.
And that's what everyone would tell us. Yeah. So you know, it's just a good sign of like, oh, there's a good feeling here. People are happy here, because even if they're leaving, they're coming back. Yeah. Or they're not leaving because it's what they're looking for. Yeah. And so that, I guess, the biggest surprise is like seems to be true. Yeah.
Tribal as fuck.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of makes sense though. I get, you know, take care of your own.
Yeah. But you know, I think the biggest surprise, other than that, and like the support that I've just felt personally, but like seen for other people, the excitement for other people's businesses, and this desire to pay it forward for each other, is incredible. I think the only other thing is like, you know, I'm surprised to see how little the students, as a generalization, so this isn't true for everybody, but how little the students explore beyond Court Street.
Yeah. Head on the nail. Is that what they say? Head on the nail
on the head. Yeah.
You get the analogy? Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that surprised me too. It's interesting you had that insight. Yeah.
Like seeing, we definitely I would go to the farmer's market and have a little bit of like insider baseball on it because my wife was working for it, and I know all these farmers now that I get to call friends. But you'd walk around and like, there's not a lot of students there. And then you realize like, oh, there's, not a lot of them have transportation to get over there. It's also early on a Saturday, and they're college kids.
They went to bed 3 hours ago.
Right. Yeah. But it was surprised me because there's more than just the vegetables. If you're a college student who feels like you're on a budget or can't cook, there's arts vendors, great gifts. There's candies. There's pastries. There's food trucks like Chelsea's Real Food. There's so much going on, and that to me is like, food to me has always been like how you really get to know someone. Food and music are the two things. Okay. That's how you get to know a culture. That's how you get to know a person. And so to me, like going to the farmer's market and seeing all of these small businesses and seeing all of these people who come back because they invest in those small businesses, and then seeing people that, I work at a restaurant, so I see regulars at the restaurant who I might not like know by name, but will recognize each other. So it feels like that is like the heart of town, is this farmer's market. You might say Court Street is, because obviously it's bustling and there's a lot of businesses there too. Yeah. But I think the two are only different in my head because of the general demographic of who's going to those spots. Yeah.
Well, thought experiment. How do you get them fucking plugged in? How do you get OU to get there?
I don't know.
Can you run a farmer's market uptown like on a Thursday? Fucking like.
I have no idea. Yeah. That's beyond my my pay grade. And
Yeah, for sure.
But like, you know, I know that like the farmers market has done some markets on campus.
Oh, okay.
I know there's a brand new Nelsonville farmers market happening once a month, like right on the near the square, I think, up in the community center, resource center, Ohio Jobs Center.
Okay.
You know, it's just one of those things that's like, you know, makes it feel more like, you know, a Hallmark movie where you just like you go into the town square and you see it. So it's outside this community center. There's stuff going on. It's fantastic. And I think that's true for Court Street too. It's just because it's more a student-focused area and it's a little harder to park. It's not my, you know, I'm twice the age of some of these students and it's not my scene. So I'm not going to say that that's not also like a huge heart or atrium or vein of town, because it you know, like I said, like CASA's there, Obetti's is there, the Union's there, so many institutions for town are also there, and that's important to this community too. But for where I'm coming from with the food and the farm scene and that sort of thing, there's definitely like a real power in going to the farmers market on Saturday and Wednesday. And seeing how many people are there and how many people are excited to see each other, you know, even if they're not spending money that day or whatever, you know, and then on top of that, you know, again, goes back to the USDA and the funding and stuff, but the farmers market has, you know, they can accept SNAP benefits.
Yeah. So how does it work, right? You go up to a stand at the farmers market, and then they give you like the tokens, and then all of the vendors will accept the tokens.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Good as cash. And if you don't have cash and you are on SNAP or want to supplement your SNAP, like you can get what they call market bucks, which is just like an equal dollar amount value, but you're paying with a credit card, and they give you essentially like paper bucks that are coupons for equal amount dollars. But the funding thing that's you know also cutting is this program called Produce Perks, which if I understand it correctly, the Produce Perks allows your SNAP benefits at the market to count for double.
That was huge.
Yes. So if you like are on a tight budget and you're on SNAP or whatever, and you've got people to feed, you got to feed yourself, like Produce Perks allows you to stretch your dollar like 2x.
That's crazy.
And so now that's like one of the things that are being cut.
Yeah.
And
shit.
Yeah. So those Produce Perks programs aren't just hurting, you know, they're hurting the people that we want to feed, especially in a community like this, and are hurting the farmers who now people don't have that dollar to spend.
Yeah. Fuck, and that's such a circular effect.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And so that's also like, you know, when I say this sort of sense of community is like learning about all of these things and all of these people on every end of or every corner of this whole system. It's really empowering to try and do things for people and make things accessible and pay it forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Well said. I think that it is, I think it's interesting that you are completely, you're not from here, but like all of the things that you're explaining are like consistent with the you know, the people that have been here forever. And so it's like, damn, dude, you made good use of the time, you know?
Thank you. I think, you know, I've always been the kind of person who like, I miss, you know, there's definitely people I love still in Chicago and still in New York.
Yeah, man.
Keep in touch with them, and I miss them. But I always felt like I could live anywhere as long as there were good people there. And there are lots of good people here.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'm not a religious person. I'm just, you know, I consider myself kind of almost Taoist in a sense.
Okay.
But I think like it is just important to see like who is doing what their actions are and what they're doing. You know, a big thing that I feel like I've noticed, like I mentioned CFI, Rural Action.
Yeah.
There's so many nonprofits that are really doing a lot of hard work here for this community and Appalachia, and you know, there were a lot of nonprofits up where we were in New York too, and I don't want to badmouth anybody. I don't want to like, you know, I wasn't
Assume
close
positive
enough.
intent.
Yes, assume positive intent.
Yeah.
But I can it's easier for me to see the work here and see that funnel of where the money is going and how and why.
Yeah.
That just made it even more powerful for me to be like, this is a good place. There's people working hard to make good for their neighbors.
Yeah, so to plug the CFI, the Community Food Initiative, a non-governmental organization that they aim to supplement people with food scarcity issues, but what's specific about the Community Food Initiative is that they're specifically produce, right? So you have the food banks that will provide the non-perishable items, canned goods and whatnot, but that's what makes the CFI so distinctively different, is that it's specifically focused on that produce. And what's really awesome is they get a lot of the produce that they give away from the Chester Hill Produce Auction, which is Amish farmers, like local community to Chester Hill. And so I love the CFI. They were the first people that I ever volunteered for. That wasn't like you know, when I was on like the football team in high school, like you do volunteering stuff or like whatever student organization stuff. But like the first time that I was ever, like what happened was I was bartending at the pub. In college, and then the pandemic hit, and like I just literally had nothing to do, and then my college just like ended, so I moved back into my parents' house, and I'm like, I gotta figure out how to just fucking get out of here every once in a while. So I volunteered with the CFI for a little bit, like when like the whole world was shut down, and it was awesome. But to your funding point, like some of what the CFI has done has been challenged with some of the budget cuts as well, but this is why I just want to keep plugging them. So the CFI, you can go to the farmers market Wednesdays and Saturdays. They have a donation station set up. You can donate money to that, and you know, that helps support things like the veggie van. The veggie van goes to different kind of rural spots, Nelsonville, Coolville, a couple different spots, and just gives away the produce. And so love to plug the CFI. Love talking about the CFI.
They're fantastic.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say people can do monetary donations, but you also see like the farmers at the end of the market are also donating. You know, it's like you said, it's a circular
produce as well.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Even more than just money. Yeah,
exactly. Like they're donating their produce that didn't get sold, or even they're even harvesting. A lot of these farmers are just harvesting for CFI.
That's awesome.
They're just making that donation directly. Like it's not like, well, I have extra, so here you go. It's like, no, I'm doing this because this is important. And like you said, it was a circular sort of. This local economy that is so it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful down here.
And that's such a great thing, because I didn't even remember that. Like, you can just go buy produce. You can go support the stands at the farmers market and take that produce. Like, so you don't have to just donate money to the CFI. You can decide to support a local stand at the farmers market and then donate that to the CFI. And again, it just goes in. And so then the CFI, you use AceNet, right? So AceNet in Athens, 9040 Columbus Road has like the coolers and things like that. And so, dude, shout out to the CFI Community Food Initiative. Keep doing great things. Hell yeah.
And the fact that they have space at AceNet and stuff, like that too is sort of what excites me when I say like, okay, well, I'm getting, anytime someone purchases food from me, whether that's a ticket to my pop-up dinners or any of my like lunch lab pop-ups that I do, all under this gimme sort of thing, you know, I like to tell people like, you're supporting me, and that's fantastic, but I try to buy as local as possible, as frequently as possible. So you are also supporting those farmers directly. But also, I work out of the AceNet kitchens, and I pay to do that, right? I'm not just showing up. So you are now also supporting AceNet and all of the things.
It's like 5x on the dollar, right? You know what I mean?
All the things that AceNet is doing, not just for like me and these other caterers and pop-ups and food businesses, but they're also housing CFI. They're, the coolers for CFI are in that property. All of the business incubation stuff that they do that isn't necessarily directly food related or outside of our immediate community, but in this Appalachian area, food prices are high. Lots of things are high. But any chance I feel that I can like reinvest locally in any capacity just makes it that much more fulfilling.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So like coming from a market like Chicago or New York, it's just like, we don't have that kind of money, right? So like, was it a shock to you coming down here? Like, how'd you figure out the pricing? Because I would just expect that you know, coming from a Chicago and a New York, that it's just like you would just have kind of like out of touch. But you kind of already acknowledged that when you were like, yeah, like our farm price, like whatever those farm dinners in New York, like kind of what you even acknowledged that out there. But like, yeah, was that different? Did it shock you like how little the money is here, or like?
No, because you know it always at least in Chicago. So the restaurant I last worked at in Chicago, Band of Bohemia, Michelin star tasting menu. Like we had casual bar food. It was a brewery, so we had like the first Michelin brewery. So we had like really interesting beer, some delicious beer, and then some really delicious food. And you can just buy stuff a la carte. We had this like really nice eggplant pita dish that was like really popular, just bar food. But then we had this tasting menu that was really, really nice. But I feel like even the tasting menu with the beer pairings was less than $100, which for a Michelin star tasting menu is really cheap when you think about all these businesses that. And so kind of what I loved about the Chicago food scene was, you know, it still was special event pricing for me. Like I worked in these places, I couldn't afford to eat in them for the most part, you know, unless I was able to like make a connection with someone and get a deal. But the pricing for the food in Chicago at the time, as pre-pandemic, still felt affordable for really good food. A restaurant I really loved in Chicago.
Is it like competition, right? Is it like,
I think it's just, you know, it's just like they understood who wanted to come. You know?
Just like you were talking about here, they did. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
like I remember, like you know, I grew up about an hour outside of New York City, and like would go to New York and be like, wow, the pricing is insane here. It's like it felt like you're going to the airport, McDonald's. And you're like, why is this $5 hamburger $15 here? You know, but Chicago always felt like they knew. You know, Chicago's a working class city. You know, there's definitely money in different pockets, and there's always Chicago's actually really interesting when it comes to gentrification because it's ever expanding, ever gentrifying city. There's only 3 directions to go because the lake is on one side. It's really like politically really interesting, but also you have like Haymarket riots in Chicago for union rights and stuff. So you've got the meatpacking district, you've got the mob, you've got, you know, so Chicago's like a really interesting city, and I loved being there, but it always felt like a blue collar city.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so you have all these awesome restaurants and all these little pocket neighborhood restaurants, and they're all seem to be, at the time, and I lived there years ago, at the time, to be priced for those people.
Yeah.
Whether it was a special event, something you were celebrating, or just, you know, going out with your family or on a date, it always felt like priced properly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when I went to the Catskills, it was interesting because there was a lot of pressure to price for these New Yorkers who were on vacation or buying their vacation homes in that area.
Yeah.
It's only like 2 hours north of Manhattan, Brooklyn. But it was also the pandemic. There was supply issues. But again, I was like, that's when I was starting to realize like how much I wanted to invest in like local economy and local farmers. So, you know, even now people are asking like, are you worried as a chef about tariffs and stuff like that? It's like, not really, not unless I need equipment, because I'm trying to buy as locally as possible. So I shouldn't have to be worrying about buying
imported goods.
Right.
Yeah. Fucking yeah.
Like, I mean, would I love to make more tropical fruit dishes? Sure. But like, you know, I'm not trying, like, my cuisine isn't focused on a certain region or certain part of the world or certain country's cuisine or whatever, you know, like, so the ingredients that I use, if I can get it local, I'll use that. The flavors that I kind of work towards are inspired by a lot of different global cuisines. But really it's like, okay, the ingredients are what is important. How do I use them and how do I season them properly? I you know, I don't want to like talk myself up, but I had people, you know, at the farm dinners last year be like, this was the most amazing like vegetable dish I've ever had, and I don't like vegetables. And it's like, I literally grilled the peppers from over there 20 feet away, you know? So so I didn't really do much to them. The fact that you like them is because of how fresh and how local they are.
Yeah, keep it simple, man.
Right?
Yeah.
They weren't grown, in bad conditions in a different country and then shipped after weeks.
I'd argue they were grown with love.
They were. I mean, that stuff can be grown with love too.
Yeah, man.
But it still took weeks for you to get it on your table.
Okay,
whereas we literally picked that this morning, and it's been a couple hours.
Yeah.
So I started to like think about that and the foodways in New York in the same way. Is like, okay, there's all these small farms in the Catskills.
You keep saying Catskills. Is that short for something? Is that like the name of the area?
That's the name of the area. It's the Catskills Mountains. Catskills Mountains.
Okay.
Kill. The word kill is, I want to say, either maybe Dutch for stream or waterway. So you've got like, in that whole region, you've got like Fishkill, Westkill.
Oh, I see.
I think it was Dutch settlers up there.
Interesting.
But it's a beautiful area. And there's like ski towns, so you have like tourism and stuff like that. So like it always felt like, yes, in New York, pricing was high. So when I moved here and started at Little Fish and was talking to the chef, I'm like, all this food's underpriced. Jen and Becky and Little Fish are known for this Appalachian platter dish, which we don't do during the colder months because it's again like the sort of the way that I like to cook is hyper local, hyper seasonal. So you have this big platter that can feed 4 people with meat that Jen butchered in house from local farms and vegetables that were found nearby or foraged nearby or whatever, and it's amazing stuff. But I'm always like, that's for 4 people. That's so cheap. But at the same time, it's like, if our margins are good and people can afford it, like, why be greedy?
Yeah, it's about contributing to something bigger than a bottom line profit margin.
Right. Like in general, food costs should be less than 30%, ideally like closer to 20%. And so, the first person to teach me about pricing food was like, well, you could do 3x or you can do 4x or 5x.
That's a big difference.
Right. And it's like, that's the base for pricing because you also have to factor in like your overhead and your staff. And
sure.
There's
complex
math to it, right?
Yeah.
But like the basic way is like, okay, if the meat costs you $1, then charge $3 for it, and then build your pricing that way. But in New York, it was always like start at 5x.
Yeah.
Like
checks out
right
to what you expect.
Right, and
for sure.
and granted, like there's a higher cost of living.
The incomes, it's just that the money's different.
Right.
That's kind of what I was getting at. It's just that the money's so much different in this area. And Tim Martin was the first one to explain it. And I think almost every small business owner has reiterated the same thing that he explained of just like, you have to consider like what you're charging. Yes, I could go up to Columbus and charge somebody more, but this isn't a Columbus market.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I even remember like when I first started down here at Little Fish, that's when I like first started to meet Attic and Farms and Kara and Dan and like got to know them because I thought they were growing some great stuff. They were like our age, so we like just met them and got to know them. Cool. And I remember trying to bring them into Little Fish, and immediately Becky was like, "You're not charging enough," like to the farmers. And that was her.
Wait. She said you're not charging enough to the farmers. What
to
do you
me,
mean?
like she was saying to the farmers, "You're not charging me enough for what you're
to
selling
Little
me."
Fish. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so that, like, a lot of restaurateurs, a lot of chefs are gonna be like, I'm getting such a great deal.
Yeah,
right?
Fuck yeah.
And you're trained to do that. Like, what deal can I get? But seeing Becky and Jen be like, this is worth more than your, so we'll pay you, but like next time maybe price it here because we want you to thrive. So like you can sell it to us, sell it to these other people, but know your worth. And I think that's just important for everybody. Like I'm worried about overcharging, and my margins are getting slimmer because of, even on the sandwiches, I'm like, I don't want to charge more than this amount if I don't have to, unless it's like a really specialty thing.
Yeah.
But at some point, everyone's costs go up.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, how can we don't want to be greedy, but still have to maintain.
Yeah.
And so when you get down to like, okay, again, the funding and stuff like that, but if the farmers aren't able to subsidize through the grants from the USDA, or the pricing, the stuff they were selling to the food bank because of the grants, the FDs, right? Now they're losing money. And so how do they make up for it? Do they have to charge more at market and to the restaurants? Okay, that's fair. They have to make a living.
Yeah.
And if they don't, what happens? I think I saw something today from either Mosa or Attican on Instagram. It was like 47 small farms close in a day, every day. And the average age of farmers is growing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, people always told me restaurants are not a sustainable business. It's a hard business to sustain. Most restaurants fail within the first 2 years. Yeah. And I can't imagine that it's any easier, if not worse, for farmers.
Yeah.
Because it's physical labor.
Yeah.
It's tight margins.
Like the fucking equipment to run a farm.
Yeah.
It's like you have no idea that you're driving past $4 million for the fucking farming. You just have no idea.
Yeah.
You don't have. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's the same. And then you get into like, well, conventional farming and like that's organic, into conventional farming and stuff like that. Then you get into like large scale farming, like near California and the south of the U.S. and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, well, who's going to work these? Now we're getting into like,
illegal immigrants a lot of times. The strawberry fields,
right,
for
sure. A lot
sure.
of immigrants and stuff like that. And, there's still issues of pollinators. It's like, okay, well, if we don't have pollinators, we're not going to have certain fruits. We're not going to have almonds anymore. If there's no
Robot
bees,
pollinators.
right? And it's just like if we stop looking at what's happening to our neighbors, then it'll be too late.
Yeah, again, bigger than something yourself. That's such a selfless perspective to be like, you're not charging our business enough. Something very similar at the Chester Hill Produce Auction. So like, there'll be times like, I don't know, man. Say it's like the right season for asparagus, whatever. Like, I've seen people bid themselves up at the auction to ensure that they paid a reasonable price because they don't want to pay the farmer 75 cents for per box of asparagus. And so then that same selfless thing, or like I watched, I mean, it happened more than one time.
Somebody the person bid against bidding would just heighten their
own price against nobody.
That's
just
fantastic.
To ensure that the farmer would make something, or another farmer there would buy would start bidding like against somebody just to get the price up, and then they would just buy it to just whatever. I'll go try to go sell that at the farmer's market. And so like there were so many times that you would just see those kind of selfish actions, but that is just, I mean, that's Athens.
Yeah.
You're not charging. No. Listen, you're not charging an it's just like, it's like, that's how you build trust and shit. It's like, I trust that you're not taking advantage of me. Or, like, to hear that, like, I would trust that person for the rest of my fucking life. If, if they came to me and they're like, we would pay you more for this than you're making this.
And even on like another scale like that, like I love seeing, I do this myself when I can, depending on what I have in my pocket. But like, if I buy something from one of the farmers at market and it comes to $9, here's 10. Yeah. Like, I don't need $1 back.
Yes, sir.
Like,
yes, sir.
Like,
for the love of the game, man. Keep it up. Yeah.
Right. But
love what you're doing.
It's like, maybe it's a tip. I can think of it that way if I want to. Yeah. I can think of like, well, this is worth more to me than what you're charging me. So here.
Yes.
But also like, just, it's still like, if people knew how much work farming was.
Yeah, it's an expansive and loving mindset, I think, for you to act that way. That's beautiful.
My wife was farming for years in the Catskills, which is also like one of the reasons that I got so invested in like what's going on these farms. And now she's in forestry. And
what does that mean?
What do you mean?
Like, what is forestry?
She just finished a program at Hawking.
Oh, cool.
For forestry management. And is
so you work for like ODNR or something?
She does work for ODNR. She's working off and on for ODNR for the last 2 years now. Nice. Full time for ODNR. But it's like a very similar thing. It's like, really understanding what all is needed in all of these sort of small things that we take for granted. You know, if we all really knew what went into organic farming and the work that these people are doing, and even just like an acre, and how much work they're doing and how much they deal with and how many hours they're putting in each day, like we would be paying $50 for a bunch of carrots, you know?
Man. Yeah.
Like it's just so I mean, it's exaggerated, but it's so much work.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to see, like, I think what I love about, you know, focusing on these farmers when I cook and buying from them and investing in them is just how much passion they have for what they're doing, because they are also thinking way beyond themselves.
Yeah, man.
They also see, like, the lack of food waste and food systems. Like, you know, we used to have this phrase of food desert, which then sort of became food apartheid, because it was like,
I don't know what that means.
So food desert was like, there's no grocery stores around here, right? Well, food apartheid sort of made it seem like it's not just that there's no grocery stores here, it's that the grocery companies are not putting grocery stores here. It was an intentional desert, so they were calling it sort of an apartheid, like a African apartheid, like intentional separation. And I haven't heard that term in a while, but when I think about that, you know, I think about these small communities that have small grocery stores or only have, you know, access to dollar stores as their main grocer, and it's like, you know, at the same time, on their way to that store, they passed several farms that, you know, I'm sure would just sell them some vegetables if they drove up the driveway.
Yeah.
And maybe they would, maybe they didn't. Like, but still, it's like, we have this feeling of food desert because the way we buy food, or we're trained to buy food or expected to buy food, isn't necessarily all of the accessible ways to get food. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. So, like, if I go to the grocery store and I go buy carrots, and those carrots came from some other place in this country or Mexico or wherever, I know there are people here growing carrots in Athens, in Athens County, in Albany, right? Yep. And so if I knew those farmers and I knew my neighbors and I got to know them, and I reached out online or whatever and I was like, hey, would you sell me carrots? They'd probably just say yeah. And they'd probably be cheaper, if not the same price, as what you're about to go buy at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And they're fresher. Yeah. And they're local. And the money's going 100% directly to that farmer, not to the corporation who then's bidding people down, you know?
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, it's I don't know, maybe it's socialist, maybe it's whatever, but it's this idea to me of, like, you know, I think, I've met so many people here in Athens. We talked about, like, people at AceNet having multiple jobs and side hustles and whatever. But the number of people I've met outside of that food community who also just, like, know how to do things that I don't know how to do because I was an indoor kid, like, in you know, the Northeast. Yeah. You know, I've had several people, like, I think this is the first time in my life, and I'm almost 40, that I've, like, found a mechanic I actually truly trusted. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's a mechanic that I like to go to, and I trust them.
You want to shout him out?
Yeah, it's Rick's Tire and Auto.
Rick's Tire and Auto.
In Nelsonville. I actually also really love Sundown. They've done some really good stuff for our car recently, too.
Hell yeah.
But, like, I know I can go to Rick's. Like, the first 2 times I went to Rick's Tire and Auto in Nelsonville were both for flat tires, and they didn't charge me either time.
That's wicked.
First 2 times. Wow. Like, and that's one that's paying it forward.
Yeah.
It didn't really cost them anything.
Goodwill, man.
Right?
They bought fucking Goodwill from you.
And he bought my trust and loyalty.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, oh, that guy didn't charge me. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do it. And they've been good to us ever since.
Hell yeah.
And Sundown, you know, like, we just had some work done because they specialize in our Subaru, and we went there, and same deal. Like, they were real kind and real honest with us. Cool. But outside of that, I've had, like, 3 people that I can now call friends who've all just been like, oh, I'll help you fix your car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's that idea of paying it forward. It's like, I had one friend be like, okay, here's where all the mechanics buy their parts online. Here's where you're going to save your money on parts. Yep. And so same thing with Rick's. He was like, I can't really afford that. Do you mind if I bring my own part? He's like, sure. Just let me know when you're ready. It's
That's fucking
really
awesome.
yeah.
Man.
It's not just this food scene down here.
Dude.
It's everyone.
It's not transactional. It's just fucking something to it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've never lived anywhere that it was that just.
Yeah, culturally. Well, yeah, don't let that not to say that there aren't some fucks around here that will like take you for everything you want, like
sure.
For sure. I mean, good
That's
and bad.
True anyway.
I would say generalizing though, like most of the interactions are that,
Yeah.
Because it's another thing that for me it becomes so obvious here because of exactly what you're saying. There's so much of this fluidity
mm-hmm.
that when it's not there, it's so fucking obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I appreciate that it stands out. It's a good thing that it stands out. If it was like, but yeah, no.
Yeah.
I hear it. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, shop local.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I can say.
That's awesome, man. So the Gimme thing, so explain so you open up an order window. And it's basically that. Could you explain like how somebody could get some food from Gimme?
Sure. So Gimme is the company. I do like catering and stuff through there, and then the farm dinners are also under Gimme that I do with Kara at Attican Farms.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really really tight collaboration. Each dinner is focused on what she has growing like that week.
Mm-hmm.
So those ticket windows open a month before those tickets go on sale.
Mm-hmm.
So right now they're on sale for June 15th. And then the next
Father's Day.
Day,
cool.
yeah. And then the next dinner after that I think is going to be July 6th, so July 4th weekend. Cool. So we'll probably release those tickets at the beginning of June.
Yeah.
And there's like only 20 seats
mm-hmm.
per dinner. So in the past, what we've done is like if you miss out on tickets, then we also open a wait list.
Okay.
And
cool.
the wait list gets first dibs on tickets for the next one. So,
nice.
You
won't get got twice.
Right.
Yeah.
So like after the first one sells out, we usually have a wait list that kind of buys all the next tickets.
That's so fun. But then fucking stack more in there.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just wish
cool.
we could feed more people.
Yeah.
But at least that's like the way to, we just sell out so quickly because
that's awesome.
It's been great to have that interest and that excitement. And then the sandwiches, the lunch lab thing is kind of what I'm calling it because
lunch lab. Cool.
It's Gimme Lunch Lab. That is also monthly. With the exception of this past month, pickup is the last Monday of the month.
Okay.
So the next one I think is like the 30th of June.
Okay.
And so there's a order window the week before that, and the menu's different every time. I have some staple like cookie flavors that I kind of do, but I'll do a rotating dessert as well. Cool. And then I have always a market harvest sandwich that I'm calling that, which is kind of a roasted vegetable sandwich with a homemade hummus. And it's, again, what vegetables did I get at market on Saturday?
Yeah. Because next Monday, over the weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
So I go to farmer's market on Saturday, and I prepare everything so I can build your sandwich Monday morning for you to pick it up. It is that fresh.
That's awesome.
And then I have a veggie and a meat sandwich that also kind of rotates that tends to be similar flavors. So this past one I did a pork sandwich that was sort of a pulled pork take on. It was sort of inspired by Filipino adobo flavors, so like soy and vinegar and sugar, but it was also kind of inspired by Italian just pork and Rob sandwich. So there was some beautiful pork from Moso Farms that I braised down. I had some roasted onions on there and some amazing rainbow shard from Cowdery Farms on there, and then pickled radishes from Attican.
I saw so many pictures of that sandwich in the scoop.
And then I bake the bread as well. So as much, again, not as much as Can Be Local is, and as much as I can do scratch made, I do. The Market Harvest sandwich also had carrots from Best Farms on there with like the beets and Hakurei turnips from Attican. The month before, I did a sort of chicken sandwich from chicken was from Pastor Fowler with some like sambal, lemon marmalade, greens from Blaney Family Farms, house-made focaccia. So it sort of changes. I try to get a menu out before the order window opens.
So
So you can kind of like see what is expected. But again, it's like so. Part of me is procrastinating, and part of me is like, but I want to know what's going to be freshest. And I will just, sometimes I'll ask people what they want to have. So
I saw one of those posts, tomato sandwiches. I just learned about those last year. My girlfriend introduced me to them. Holy shit! I'm in, man.
You could not. You could not charge me enough for a really good tomato sandwich. Just like classic, like soft white bread, maybe like a Japanese milk bread with like a nice aioli and fresh tomato and salt. Like, that's all you need. Yeah, and maybe I'll do that, but I can't do that until tomatoes are
ready. Yeah. So operationally, though, you kind of put out the menu, let people see that menu. You have time to get that around social media. Then the window opens, but by the time you're going to the farmer's market, you have like an idea of like what the actual order is. It's not like you buy a bunch of extra shit and like. Right? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like kind of sounds like a smart business plan.
I mean, I guess so because everything I do is as a catering license.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you like versus what kind of
versus license? Like a food truck that has like.
So you can't just like
you can't just roll up and buy a sandwich.
Because you don't have a license to sell that, but you think it's a fucking.
No, it's. If you have like a food truck, you need a mobile food license.
Okay.
And that's like having like this is a safe kitchen that I'm preparing food from, a la minute, or at the moment that you are ordering it.
Mm-hmm.
So Ronnie Givens has a mobile food license for his food truck.
Rhythm and Food, shout out.
You can roll up, order one of his grilled cheeses, and you're good to go. All of my stuff is pre-ordered. So everything I do, because I don't have that mobile kitchen, everything I do is done at the AceNet kitchen, prepared, packed up in coolers, and then it's pickup. So that's sort of how I do it as a caterer, because it's all pre-ordered and it's all, I sort of consider it like micro catering, because you could just order one cookie from me. But because it's all pre-ordered and then prepared off-site in the commercial licensed kitchen, you're literally just coming and picking it up.
Is this just legalese? Is this just like corporate jargon? Like, what would it take? Like, is it more expensive for one of those licenses? Is there a limit on what those go? Like, why? Like, could you just sign a new piece of paper and then also do that? You know what I mean? Like, what is the actual regulation holding you back from something like that?
It's not so much a regulation holding me back, because I've looked into those. It's more a budgetary thing.
Yeah, so it is just like financial. Like, it costs a lot.
And again, it has to do with me trying to grow slowly and organically.
Because you could, like, you're at Little Fish, like, you know what I mean? It's just, and again, this is only once a month, the lunch lab thing.
So okay,
that makes more sense.
So like Little Fish too, we bake in-house. We do as much scratch stuff as we can in-house, and again, as local as possible. So it's a very similar sort of thing. I just get to create my menus with my flavor profiles. Nice. But the difference is that, like, or I guess the budgetary thing is like, okay, I could buy a food truck. Mm-hmm. I could buy one new for $50,000. I could buy a hot dog cart and do whatever I can try and do out of that. But this, because I call it Lunch Lab, because I am experimenting on what I want the next phase to be. Yeah. So like I envision having a restaurant in Athens. I love this community. Wow. I want to feed this community. Yeah. I am thinking like, okay, is a food truck or a food cart or a trailer the right stepping stone to get to that? And before I do that, what do I want to be able to do on that truck? Yeah. I don't want to just like buy equipment and then be like, oh, I brought the wrong things because I'm selling this stuff now. I want to be like, what am I making and how do I do that as smoothly as possible so that, wait times aren't long, the food is right, people are excited about it. And did you
learn all this from that Michelin restaurant?
No. I learned many things from that Michelin restaurant, but not this sort of slow and steady wins the race.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's more just where I learned it from is, so I said I was like a serial entrepreneur. Yeah. My first dream was to be a rock star, and I still play music a little bit, but you don't think about it when you're a kid, but being a musician is a small business. Yeah. You're doing on your own booking. You have to front your own recording costs. You have to buy your equipment. You have to practice. Like, you don't think about it as a business until you're like, oh, I need to get paid something. And so then I went in and then before I went into theater as a profession in Chicago, I was a web and graphic designer. And so, I was like learning Photoshop and learning all these like web coding things that who knows if they're even used anymore because technology changes. And so I had private clients that way. Then after, like while I was still acting, before I committed to cooking, but realized that I liked working in kitchens in my hands, I had a beard, butter, and like mustache wax company that I was going to farmers markets and I was selling this stuff and I was making it in commercial kitchens because I wanted it to be clean and safe.
Yeah.
And I was developing my own recipes. Like that's how I started to realize like, oh, I want to be cooking. But a lot of these times I realized that, it took me until that beard company that I still have the name for. It's Raleigh's Grooming because named after my cat because of whiskers. But I realized that excitement doesn't always equal passion, and it took me all these tries to realize I'm still passionate about acting. I loved it. I haven't done it in years, and I miss being on stage, but I don't miss auditioning, and so I was excited about acting. I wasn't passionate about the business of acting.
Yeah. It's like you're talking about like the opposite correlating factor to like the burden to do it. Right?
Yeah.
It's like the burden of actually running that. It's like the desire to overcome that burden has to be greater than the burden. Is that what you're explaining?
I think so. So like now, with the Lunch Lab stuff, right? And I'm getting a little far from the mic, but with the Lunch Lab stuff, I'm for the most part a one-man show. With the farm dinners, I have some hired help. My wife is very gracious in helping as well. Kara, her husband Dan, who also has a job outside of the farm, comes and helps.
Yeah, that's it.
So many of the farmers like
have a job just to put money. So talk about like passion or they're working a job just to support and be able to do this. That's how much they love this.
Stephen Fowler is a full-time not a chiropractor, PT practitioner or something, and so Adam Blaney is full-time farm, but his wife works outside. These businesses can't sustain themselves right now the way getting back into this funding stuff, but with the farm dinners, I have some outside help, but for the most part I'm a one-person show. So when it comes to my weekend for the Lunch Lab, like all during the week, or like the leading up to the week of order window, I'm trying to figure out what I want to make, how I'm going to be able to execute it, what I want to price it at, how I'm going to market it, and then making sure my website's updated so that I can make sales live. I'm emailing it out. All these changes I got to make each month. And then that week it's like, okay, what's this weekend going to look like? I've already ordered my protein because I know like I have to talk to the farmers about what they're going to have. And then I talk to some of the other farmers at market about picking up. But sometimes I'll just go to market Saturday and see what's available. Like, okay, so I have to go shop Saturday morning. And then I go work a shift at Little Fish. And then I take all those groceries and I bring them to AceNet, and maybe I'll start working on prep, and then I'm working all day Sunday on prep. And so that means I have to load up all my equipment that I have to bring myself to AceNet, and then unload it at AceNet, and then unpack it, and then get my ingredients and do all my work and all my prep, and then clean up the entire kitchen, pack
and then
everything
repack
up,
it,
pack it back into the van, right? Because I'm not paying for storage there. So, I have my cold storage stuff, like the food stuff, but like my equipment there, I just kind of pack up. I don't want to take up space if someone else goes in there. Yeah. And then I unpack it again out of the van, out of the truck, early Monday morning, so that I can unpack and build the sandwiches, wrap them up, clean up the kitchen again, do all my dishes. And then I'm spending that entire day doing pickups where I go to AceNet parking lot in Athens now, unload my table, unload all the food, wait there, like hand it out to the people that have ordered, talk to them, get to know them, and see them again because I'm gracious and lucky to have like all these repeat customers. And then I do deliveries. If people want, there's a few zip codes, I'll go to deliveries. And then I usually go back to AceNet to gather the rest of my stuff that I might have left in the fridge. Then I go home. So when you talk about like the burden of effort,
what it fucking
whatever,
takes.
right?
Everything takes more fucking work than you think it
Right,
does. It's
always.
just realistic.
More work and more time. But like all these other businesses I've tried and done in my past, like this one is hardest, but is the most fulfilling.
Yeah.
Because
Funny how that works.
I'm the biggest critic of my own food.
Yeah.
I'm never happy with it. Like honestly, like it never turns out just the right way that I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reasons I feel like I was unsuccessful in other businesses is like I had this perfectionism, and they say perfectionism is the enemy of done, right? So I never released any of the music that I ever put out. I never tried to like shop around any of the scripts I ever wrote. I never really like published. I never put out my own web design portfolio because I didn't like how it looked. I didn't want to represent the work I could do for other people. And granted, I said like those were exciting things, but not passion things. This is all of those things, all those different businesses and experiments and jobs. Being an independent web and graphic designer, I am doing all of my own web and graphic marketing and emailing and website. Like being a musician and performer and actor allowed me to like know how I can really engage with people and talk to people and be present for them. The beard butter sort of mustache wax company, like that's where I really developed pricing and changing recipes or developing recipes and this whole idea of branding and concept and growth. So, I'm always kind of looking back on what I've done and tried and realizing that it's getting me to this point where I like actually feel passionate and fulfilled for what I'm doing and what I'm investing in.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like the way that you could just kind of like lay out that you were getting something from all of these entrepreneurial journeys. It's like what are they? Instead of like one like silver bullet, it's like 100 golden BBs. You know what I mean? It's like you just got it.
I've never heard that.
What's the analogy? It's like to make something great. Like it's like you want it to be one silver bullet. You want it to be one thing. If I do this, then everything's great. But in reality, it's like there's 100 fucking details that you need to get perfect. And if you get those 100 details perfect, then it will appear as a silver bullet, but it's like you're looking at outside and you just see that, right? But you have no, but it's exactly what you're explaining of like the fucking, I mean, like the all of the minute level, like loading up, like right, every step of just doing one thing, right? You like laid out 14 steps.
And,
you know what I mean?
And too, like I could, I did a lot of like improv and sketch comedy in Chicago too. It's like a mecca for that, right?
That's cool, yeah.
And one of the big tenets of improv comedy is like don't be afraid to fail, right? And so I don't, I could look at all of those past endeavors as failures.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's still a ton of like essential oils from the beard butter company in my parents' closet in Connecticut that like I spent a ton of money on that I'm just not using. And it's like, what am I going to do with those? But I grew from that and I learned something from that, and same with like all the performance and acting and stuff I did. And so to just like think of these past careers and efforts as failures is a, it's not fair to myself.
Yeah. Misrepresenting what it is, man.
Yeah. And it's, the other sort of cliche thing is like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Michael Scott.
Right. If all of those things were stepping stones. All those things were practice to get to where I'm at now. I don't, I'm still not there, but I'm also a firm believer that if you're not learning something, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
A lot of that's something that I definitely learned from like the improv comedy training thing is like you will at some point feel like you're not good anymore, and that just means you're plateaued. Like you're never getting worse. You can't be. Because you've already come to where you are. So you're never getting worse, you're just plateauing. And that's when you need to, and it's the same with lifting weights. They say like, if you're not gaining muscle, you're not losing weight, you're plateauing, and just change how you're doing it. You work out a different muscle system, try different cardio, change how you're doing your reps. All of these things are like, you're not getting worse. You're just at a plateau.
Yeah.
So try something else.
Build a resistance to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
So, it's all the cliches. If you're never not learning, you're you shouldn't be the smartest person in the room, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, but fuck it. It's like, again, subtler than words. The reason that those things have stuck around is because like there's some type of eternal truth in it, right? Like truth doesn't need a resume.
Yeah.
You hear the truth and you're like, this is truth, So it's like, it's just, but I get it. Because you could just contort it. The problem is words. Words are fucking a terrible medium. It's just what we have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the depth of your emotion is, fucking, again, words. I'm trying to use fucking words to describe something. It's just like not right, but I do understand what you mean.
Cool. Yeah, great. Awesome.
I mean, I don't know if you got somewhere to be, but you like plug Little Fish. I'd love to hear more about that. So like, it's a local brewery that started out like they didn't have a food there, and then I thought there was like a food truck there, and then all of a sudden they like blew up a big kitchen, and now it's like great. They have like the trailer. I've been there to watch music. It's beautiful. Like the outside area is awesome. Like I'd love to hear a little more about Little Fish.
Yeah, of course. So July is going to be our 10th anniversary there.
Wow.
And that's Brew Week. So the first Saturday of Brew Week is our 10-year anniversary party.
Cool.
Still finalizing the details on that.
Gotcha.
But I think, a lot of people ask, like, where does the name come from? A lot of people show up expecting it to be a seafood restaurant. But the story basically goes like, Jackie O's was already here.
Yep.
And Ohio has a huge brewery scene. So the owners were starting their brewery and felt like they were a little fish in a big pond when it comes to like Ohio breweries, and Athens having Jackie O's, which was so well established at the time. So that's where the name came from. And so I've only been there 2 years of the 10. But yeah, I think they started with a little food truck, and I know other people in the food community have worked there and worked on that food truck even before, Becky and Jen took over. Right. But Becky and Jen were running a company called Pork and Pickles, which they sold sausages and different pickles at the farmer's market out of a food truck. I think they also may have had that food truck at a time at another brewery in town. And so eventually the owners added on a kitchen. And
who is the owner of Little Fish? What's his name?
So there's Sean and Gimmie, who's, I can't think of their last names, but
is one of them like the mustache guy?
Who's
the mustache? Do you know who
you're
I'm talking
thinking of the
about?
guy at Jackie O's whose name escapes me right now.
Art?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I swore there was like a Little Fish mustache guy.
Well, he comes and drinks it's like all these brewers support each other. Cool. There's we all do well when we all do well.
Yeah, I heard
right?
that.
So, and that's what's exciting about Brew Week is, like all these other breweries from out of state and in state are coming to do collabs and takeover and stuff like that. And we'll do like some special bottle release stuff. Yeah. Actually, talking about my farm dinners, we don't open Mondays on at Little Fish, but the Monday of Brew Week we do our beer tasting dinner, which is a really, really nice, elegant sort of fine dining thing. Again, hyper local. Each dish is introduced by Chef Jen, and then the brewers come and introduce the beers, and they're paired for them. Of course. Yeah. So that's a really nice, sort of elegant thing to do that week.
You said that's the Monday of Brew Week?
Monday of Brew Week.
Cool.
So I think that's like the
second, third week, July. Yeah.
But yeah, so they built on the kitchen, and so we do like Detroit style pizzas, so like nice pan pizzas. We bake that, or we mix that dough in house, so it's all local. It's sourdough. Burgers, and probably one of the best veggie burgers I've ever had. House made recipe for the veggie burger.
It's like a seasonal mushroom thing that looks crazy.
Yeah. What did we just do? We just did this buckwheat mushroom, again, hyper local dish that had like rice grits, mushrooms 3 ways from a grower named Luca, whose farm name escapes me. Asparagus from a local farm, who again I can't remember all of the.
You've had so much recall here. Like I wouldn't feel bad. You've been on it.
I try. I mean, it's important to me. To me, it's a sign of respect for all these people that. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back and write down all the names because you were right. I tried to hold on to a few of them, but then I was not listening, and I was like, stop doing that.
I always feel bad if I can't remember something.
No.
but that was a great dish. We've got a really incredible chicken dish on right now that will probably sell out soon, which is confit chicken legs from Pastor Fowler,
Nice.
with some ramp sauce on it, and like the casual food, remnants of that pork and pickles days. We've got like some great pickles, really tasty pimento cheese, like really simple service saltine crackers, but it's like delicious.
Yeah.
There's casual food, and then there's the chef's menu, which is, everything that Gimme Local is. So a lot of the menu rotates based on seasonality.
Yeah.
The pizza toppings can rotate based
Awesome.
on seasonality. But that chef's menu towards the bottom is like the most seasonal. So there's always a charcuterie board on, which sort of some stuff changes, but we do all that stuff. And sometimes we have like a head cheese that we'll make from pork that we got from Moso or Arle Valley.
You said a what cheese?
A head cheese. So
Head
cheese. Yeah.
What does that mean?
So it's a country style terrine, generally made from pig head.
Oh.
It doesn't have like weird stuff like eyes and brains in it.
Okay.
But it's a very classic charcuterie. Irish call it brawn. It uses like the cheeks and the jowls and the tongue and pork stock to just have this really nice tasty thing. Actually, we just smoked some trout in house, so there's this delicious like house made trout dip with some pink peppercorn and dill. Again, like by the time you release this episode, I don't know how many of these dishes are still going to be on because that's the nature.
Today. It'll be out today.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
but that's the nature of it. It's so hyper local that like, week to week, even within a few days, we may no longer have it because the farmer just doesn't have it.
Exciting.
There was too much rain, and now all the radishes are rotting in the ground, so we don't have radishes anymore.
That's crazy.
And so like that's exciting to like get to see how Jen develops menus too. Is like, it's cool to see like, this is what I'm gonna have. Let's see what we can make out of it. And still make it accessible like this. You in a city, you might get that at a Michelin star restaurant or a really nice fine dining restaurant who has all these connections to the farms just outside the city. But like, again, like, I worked at that pie and biscuit shop for 3 years, and we were getting fresh fruit and fresh pork and for ham and our sausage and grits from farmers just like an hour outside the city. And that's when I started to get to realize like, oh, we can make this food, not cheap, but accessible at a dollar standpoint, and still get people food they want to eat, and still make it local, and still support local economy, and it's just exciting. It's exciting to be able to work at a place who not only is doing what I want to be doing, but allowing me to also do it outside, and give me that time and give me that support. One of the, a bunch of my coworkers and the owners and Jen all just bought sandwiches for me this week.
Nice.
And like that,
I have no choice but to show out now, man. Like, this story is so fucking, how could I not support you now, man? Fuck.
But yeah, that just to me, like, to see the people that are in the food scene and not in the food scene that I work with, like, they're not just, I hope they're not just buying from me out of pity, but the fact that they are supporting me in that while also knowing that, like, I'm maybe not there helping them on a busy day because I'm doing that, it's just really, like, it just hits me, like, in a way.
Selfless.
It's
just selfless.
It's just a beautiful community here.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, Zack Shornick. Thank you so much.
Yeah, how long? I don't even know how long I've been
this
here.
This is an hour and 38 minutes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
What
I'm sorry
pleasure.
if I talked your ear off.
No, this has been great. Recurring invite. Like, you got something to talk about. Little Fish, fucking Gimme, special thing coming up. I think that would be really cool. It would be awesome, like, I don't know, to try to talk to somebody from Little Fish too, maybe even Jen.
Yeah,
like
I'll let you know.
For sure.
But yeah, if you want to find me, Instagram and Facebook are Eat Gimme. Website is eatgimmegimme.com. And
Lunch Lab should be next week, right? The menu is about to come out. You said last week.
So last week was I just did on this week on Monday was the pickup
day. So it won't be until the end of next month for the next Lunch Lab.
End of next month.
Yeah.
I put it a week early because of Memorial Day.
Makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Eat Gimme.
Yeah.
Zack Shornick. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.